Whispering allows you to broadcast and receive events client to client without having to define these events in your Laravel application. There's a couple of scenarios where you'd want to use this. For example, if you were building out a chat room and you wanted to display which users were currently typing. It doesn't make sense on the client side to then send a request to your application to then broadcast an event to then pick up on the clients. Instead, what you can do is just send this event directly on the client and it will be picked up by anyone on that channel. We're going to look at a really simple example. And then we're going to build out a mouse tracking event, which will show whose mouse is moving on everyone's client. Okay, let's get started with this by just building up a channel really quickly. So it doesn't matter which type of channel that we're working with. In our case, we're just going to create out an app channel, and inside of the closure here, we're going to go ahead and grab out the current user. And we're just going to return true. But of course, you can also authorize these channels that users are allowed to whisper on. So let's go ahead and actually return true there, and let's head straight over to our home and look at how this works. So once again, we can write some JavaScript out here. And we're going to go ahead and connect up to that channel first of all. So let's use echo private and connect to the app channel. Okay, we'll keep Reverb running here and open just so we can see this. And sure enough, if we head over, you can see that we are now connected to that channel. Great. Okay, so we're going to do things slightly differently here because we can't just go ahead and broadcast this directly on this channel. We have to have some sort of JavaScript event to then go ahead and whisper. So what we're going to do is to find out a variable here called channel, and then on some event we're going to whisper to that channel. So as an example, let's create out a timeout here in JavaScript and give this a couple of seconds before it runs. What we can then do is access our channel and we can use the whisper method. All of this again is within the Echo API, so you don't have to specifically give the event it needs. Okay, so the event name can be anything. Let's just give that as typing. And then as the second argument, you can define out any payload that you want to send over. So, for example, if this timeout was actually an event on a text area down here, you would go ahead and emit this with the user, the currently authenticated user who is typing. Okay, let's try this out. So we're going to come over and give this a refresh. Just wait a couple of seconds. And if we head back over to here, you can see that sure enough we have this client prefixed with typing, so that's our event name and of course all of the payload. So with this, we can now pick this up on any of the connected clients. How do we do that? Well, we'll access the channel as normal and we'll use the listen for whisper. Let's go ahead and pick up the typing event, and this works in exactly the same way as any other events that we create. We define a closure and we get all of the event data out in here that we want to listen to. Okay, let's save this out and head back over and give these both a refresh. Wait a couple of seconds and you can see that this is now being broadcast to every single client without having to define that event on our backend. One thing that's really important about this is if we were to whisper a huge amount of data. At the moment, we're running Reverb with the debug option. We're going to go ahead and turn that off, because in the future we're going to be handling a huge and sending a huge amount of events. And with the debug option enabled, effectively, this is just going to crash Reverb, particularly inside of our terminal. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of the debug option. Everything is still working nicely here. Wait a couple of seconds, that comes through. Let's go and look at a practical example where we're going to be sending a much larger amount of events. Okay, let's go ahead and build out this mouse tracking application that we saw from the introduction, and this isn't going to work perfectly, but it will give you a really good idea as to how many events you can actually push to your Reverb server. Okay, let's get rid of everything that we've got inside of here except the channel, because we still want to be connected up to that channel. Okay, let's take a look at what we want to do here. So first of all, we want to grab the current width of our browser window. So to do that, we're going to grab the inner width of the window. And we're going to do exactly the same thing for the height as well. So we'll say inner height. That will give us the dimensions of the inside of our browser. What we now want to do is define out an onMouseMove event. So when we move our mouse, we want to broadcast what position our mouse is on. So here if we just console log on the event X and the event Y, Let's go over and try this out, and you can see sure enough this gives us all of the movements. So each of these movements is going to broadcast an event using a whisper over to our Reverb server. And you can see there are a ton here. So we'll see how this handles it. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually broadcast this. So let's say channel whisper. We are going to say mouse move. That kind of makes sense. And inside of the payload, we want to get the details about the user who is moving their mouse. So again, because we're not working with an event on the back end, this means that we need to put the data specifically in here. If this was an event on the back end, we would just use the user model. And then we want to output or broadcast the position of the mouse. So we want an x-axis, that's e.x, which we've already seen logged, and we want y, of course, that's e.y. Okay, so now that we've done this, let's go over to the browser and just move our mouse around, and this is now whispering or broadcasting that event. We can see that over in the terminal, so we can't at the moment, but let's cancel it off and run this with the debug option just to check. And let's do a few mouse movements, head back over, and there we go. So all of these are now being broadcast. Great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this off and rerun this without debug so we don't get a crash. And let's go ahead and picking these events up. So once again, somewhere up here or down below, we're going to listen for this whisper. For whisper, and of course, we're going to listen to that mouse move event. We'll get the closure in here with all of the event details, so let's go and pull that event in, and let's just log on that event to make sure we can see it. So, as you can see, all of them positions are now coming through, and the same for Mabel as well. Okay, let's go over and attach who is moving which mouse. Now, using JavaScript and the received X and Y position, we will try to change the position of our span tag on the page. Okay, let's go over and have a look. And as you can see, this is now keeping track really nicely. Now, it's not great. The window sizes that we've got here are exactly the same height and width, which means, of course, everything is working nicely. Now we can kind of get around this by doing some division and multiplication between pushing this event. So what we can do is we can take the x-axis for the position that we're pushing, and we can divide it by the width of the window. And we can do the same thing for the height of the window just here. And then when it comes through, we can make it relative by just multiplying this by the width, and multiplying that by the height of the user who is currently viewing the cursor. So this works nicely now. And it kind of works even if we have a smaller screen size, but you can see it's slightly off. We're not going to focus on making this really accurate, but as you can see now, whoever's moving their cursor, it works really nicely. So although this example isn't perfect, it does show you that you can send and broadcast a huge amount of events to your WebSocket server and have these picked up by all clients. If you enjoyed these tutorials and want to see more tutorials on programming, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Write your comments and questions in the comments section, and if you have any suggestions for future videos, be sure to share them with me.